Talking Bruno tonight, Bruno Guimaraes, Bruno Fernandes as well. We're going to touch on Ndiaye as Man United start work towards what could be an absolutely amazing summer transfer window, but Champions League football is going to be key, and we as United fans have got to get behind Carrick. We've got to get behind every single player, encourage them and push them as hard as possible to get over the line, because it's going to be essential. Do me a big favour, please, and like the video, support the community here at the United Stand. Make sure you are subscribing here as well, and get that bell notification button turned on as well. Lots to go through today, as I mentioned. We're talking Bruno Guimaraes, Bruno Fernandes potentially staying as well. We're going to touch on Paul Scholes later in the show as well, after he comes out and touches on the Michael Carrick comment that he made as well. So look, it's going to be a real interesting one to see how this goes and how this happens. The echo is going to stop now. I don't know why it was coming through, but it will stop. It's sorted. Don't worry yourselves on that, people. The echo is now fixed. But yeah, look, loads to go through and talk about on the show. Ndiaye as well, which I can't wait to get involved with and talk about. But maybe a more Premier League proven winger is what you guys think Manchester United need as well. Yes, I don't know. Do you know what it is? It's I didn't realize I had the desktop open, the show on the desktop, and it started playing on there with the sound, so I've muted it. It's all sorted. I actually do need to sort out my OBS to stop that sound coming through. It never used to, but it does now. But there we go. Is it sorted yet? Some of you are on such delays. Some of you are on such big delays. What's happening? Where are you watching this from? The moon. Why is the delay so big? There we go. But I want to start with the big news today, and that is Bruno Fernandes. That's where I really want to start today, because I think this is the biggest news of the day from Fabrizio Romano. He was on Men in Blazers, and this is what he said. That if Man United qualify for the Champions League and present Bruno with a very interesting and ambitious project, there's a good chance for him to continue and stay. And for me, that is massive. For me, that is absolutely huge. And it's something that we need to do. And I understand that he's on a big deal, he's on big money. But now that he's moved back to the 10, and it's something that Mark and I agreed massively on, throughout the course of the summer, that if Amorim was going to continue to foul Bruno, if Amorim was going to continue to ridiculously use him out of position, we may as well have cashed in. We may as well have accepted the 80, 90, 100 million. We may as well have pushed him out the door, taken that money and invested it in a Elliot Anderson, in a Wharton, who are better in deeper positions than Bruno Fernandes, especially from a defensive perspective. But he is now back in the 10, and he's the best number 10 in the world. Nobody's as good as him. Nobody creates like him. And if we could start to build a better team around him, we've added attackers, get some more. Add top quality midfielders behind him. And I think for the next 2 or 3 seasons, he could thrive. I have a dream when it comes to Bruno Fernandes. And it's that Bruno Fernandes has that kind of Brian Robson-esque season. Hopefully a little bit more involved than Brian Robson was in 92, 93. But that Brian Robson element of stuck with the club through thick and thin, through the hard times, through the growth. I would love us to win a Prem or a Champions League in the next couple of seasons with him. And I know that's a long way away. I know it seems inconceivable right now, but I'm talking about my dream for Bruno Fernandes, what I would love for him to achieve. And I do think for us to get there, Champions League football is absolutely imperative on every single level. Every single level. 1 second, people. I just need to message Matt for a second. I want to make sure everything's okay with it now. Matt will let me know in a second. So, yeah, look, from my point of view and perspective, Champions League football is key. And I know that brings up a massive debate about Michael Carrick. Should he stay or should he go? I loved what Nemanja Vidic said this week. We don't need to overanalyze it. We don't need to be focusing on it. What we need to do right now is get behind the team, because without being back in the chat, you can hate Ineos or love Ineos. You can want them out. You can want them in. If we don't get back into the Champions League, that is when we will be in dire straits. And I think this team needs our support. It needs an arm around its shoulder. We need less infighting and more support for the club. Because why I feel it's important from my point of view and perspective, I want to read this to you. You may be familiar with this, you may not be, but this for me is absolutely imperative. And by the way, Daniel, thank you for the super chat. He says, hi, Terry and the United Stand. Hope you are well and had a good day. I am, and thank you so much for the super chat as well, my friend. It means a great deal to myself, but everybody here at the United Stand. This comes from Mark Ogden earlier on today, who said the implications Man United face for not qualifying for the Champions League. He says this absence has cost them UEFA prize money and roughly $5 million in additional matchday revenue per home game. If they had reached the quarterfinals as Aston Villa did last term, they would have gained an extra $30 million just from 6 home games alone. Man United face a £10 million deduction from their $90 million a season Adidas shirt deal if we're not in the Champions League. Playing and coaching staff salaries were reduced by 25% without Champions League football, saving the club around $78 million annually. But that does not fully offset the loss in revenue. The club has a $313 million wage bill and $444 million in outstanding transfer fees. So remember, it does hurt us. The prize money is tens of millions. There's matchday revenue. And of course, there's an attraction. We are massively attractive still to football clubs all around the world, and we always will be, in my view. It will wane slightly, but not being in the Champions League is a massive factor. So I think to keep Bruno Fernandes, to keep him here for another couple of years without the Champions League football, one, I don't think he'll want to play without being in the Champions League, and two, it makes it harder for us to build that team around him. But I think Bruno, I wouldn't use the phrase Bruno Fernandes deserves it, but I feel that Bruno, if we're going to get the best out of Bruno and therefore the best for Man United, we are going to need it. We need the revenue to be there. We need the attraction to be there. And we need to give these players more game time, more hope. We can't have another year like this season of playing 1 game a week, because it's been nowhere near good enough. And I think we're seeing the issues with that right now. And as much as people say, oh, 1 game a week, you should make the top 4. This isn't always true. Do a bit of research for just an hour and look at how many football players will tell you. And the first person I ever heard say this was Bernardo Silva about 4 seasons ago, when he stated that he would much rather play 2 games a week than 1 game a week. He said, 1, you don't dwell on any bad results, but he said, more importantly, you can keep yourself in a better rhythm. Players don't necessarily like training. And now, as much as we might say, well, you're paid a lot of money, do as you're told, players prefer to play games. And if you're playing 2 games a week with your kind of pre-match prep, and then your sort of post-game recovery periods, you're not doing lots of hard training, and players prefer it, and I understand that. How many of you would want to spend your week at work training rather than doing your job? Depends on your job, I suppose, but a job you love, you'd want to do your job and not do the training. And I think we've seen an element of lethargicness from these players, and some might blame the coaching. I don't necessarily. I think it is with the massive layoffs we always have. You know, when we play again against Aston Villa, it's going to be, 11, 12 days in between playing games? It's no good for you. I think there's a stoutness there. So going into next season, I think there's so many reasons why we need that Champions League football. I think it's imperative. I really do. But on Bruno Fernandes staying, what do you all make of it? Are you excited at the prospect? Would that be the right thing for him and Man United to do? Give us your thoughts, please. Let's have a look at some comments here. Man Cat Attack. Is that your name, Man Cat Attack? Says Bruno deserves to play in a team that will win things. I agree. I'd like to see Bruno win in his career, because I feel he's too good a player to never have a league title. He obviously got League Cups, FA Cups. I think he got domestic trophies in Portugal. But I'd love to see him add... He got international trophies, but I would love to see him add a major league title, a Champions League, to his honours list, because I do think he's a good enough player, and he deserves that. United will be the highlight game every Champions League week for TV. Always are. Getting Champions League is beyond critical for so many reasons. Revenue, transfers, funds, keeping Bruno, basically keeping the club alive is that important. I couldn't agree with you more, which is why I just feel that all the additional noise needs to be quietened down. Just my personal opinion. Everyone's entitled to say and do what they want, but I don't think it helps us. I don't think it helps us at all. It's one of the reasons I was talking to a good friend of mine about Michael Carrick being quite boring, as in his press conferences are very boring. I don't really watch press conferences anyway, because you don't learn anything. It's very media trained, it's very sterile. I only really care about the update on who's fit and who's not, and I can read that later. It's not important to me. But he doesn't make headlines at all. And again, I think for this moment right here, right now, that is absolutely imperative. Absolutely imperative. This here from the Busby Way says, sell him whilst we still have value and use the funds to build a real squad. The thing is, I don't think we need to sell Bruno if we get into the Champions League to raise the money. And if we are in the Champions League, so we've got the extra money, who replaces Bruno in your opinion? Let me throw that question back at you. I wouldn't do it. That's my answer. I respect that you would, but who would you buy as his replacement? This here from Mr. Robinson. He says, so we are Bruno United, one-man team, same problem PSG had with Mbappe. Reminder, we won it all without Cantona. I'll be honest with you, my friend. I think you're off key massively with that comment. No one, if you actually listen to what I said, this isn't about being a one-man team. It's about having such an amazing attacking midfield player. I don't think there's anybody as good as him in the world that we could buy. But what I spoke about is building an attack around him and building a better midfield around him. It's the opposite of a one-man team, but I think he's an imperative part of that team. I haven't said we'd go 100% backwards without him. I think if you do replace him, it's got to be in the aggregate. You're never going to buy a creator that plays centrally like him. I don't think many exist in the world right now. The creativity is going to have to come from somewhere else. But the idea of keeping Bruno that suddenly makes us a one-man team. I'll be honest with you, my bro. I respect the super chat. I respect the opinion, but I think that's well off key. Bruno should stay, but we haven't got Champions League football yet. We still need results, and to do better, there's no guarantees. No, I understand that, and I don't think Bruno will make a decision until after he knows. And it's right for him to consider what he wants to do in his career. When someone's signing for us, I agree with our club's policy that the player should want to sign irrespective. Bruno Fernandes, I think once you've given what he's given to the club, the time, the energy, the effort, the performances, I feel that you should, in that circumstance, have a bit more leeway. And I think his decision-making has to be absolutely key. Does he want to remain at Man United? He's getting to the latter stages of his career, and I would respect him if we don't make Champions League, or even if we do, if he says, listen, guys, it's been amazing, but I want to go now. I want to go play here. I want to go win this. I would respect that for what he's done for the club 100%. Emily here says, getting into the Champions League is so important, but staying there is vital. That's why we need to sign the right players in the right positions and with the right quality, not cheap makeshifts. Round of applause for Emily. This is why it was so correct in January to not buy Ndiaye's, buy Conor Gallagher's, buy, who's the other, Loftus-Cheeks. Jesus, tonight. I mean, that is a kind of wasting of money which has led to our demise. And you're absolutely spot on. We need another summer like the one we just had, but with 2 or 3 additional players. We need to be signing Elliot Anderson's, Bruno Guimaraes', Wharton's, Diamande's, Ndiaye's. These are the players we need to be bringing in. Know the Premier League, of a very good quality. We know, listen, we all kind of know they're going to be able to deliver in Europe. We know their levels. We need to be going out and doing that and adding those types of players into this squad. We did an exercise on here in the summer, didn't we, about how we looked at how many players we actually bought from the Prem in the previous 13 years, and it wasn't a great deal. And rarely was it like the best Premier League players. And even some of them were like Alexis Sanchez, who didn't want to be here in the first place. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Emily, and the Champions League is going to play a huge, huge part in that. And this kind of leads into one of our other stories tonight, which is about Bruno Guimaraes. And this has been shared by the United Stand earlier today, that Man United consider Bruno Guimaraes as the ideal replacement for the outgoing Casemiro. And again, we're also linked to Tonali, okay? But for me, I like the fact that we are linked to both. I like the fact that we're looking at both for the simple reason that I feel like Newcastle finishing where they are in the league this year is amazing for a club like Man United who need to bolster our midfield, because I think we can get in the ear of those players. I think we can turn their heads. Had they finished third this year, I doubt they will from this point, but say they would have finished third and they were to have won the FA Cup, it might have been a much harder negotiation to turn Tonali's head or turn Bruno Guimaraes' head. Very, very difficult to do. But I think, after winning Newcastle their first trophy in 70-odd years, and maybe having a little bit of a regression of a season, I think you can get into the ear of these players. I think you can convince them to start thinking about leaving. I think it's very doable. I think it's very plausible. I wouldn't say it's easy. Newcastle fans will push back. Their media will start pushing back against these stories. But these are the types of players I'm talking about. You add Bruno Guimaraes and Elliot Anderson to the midfield. You add an Ndiaye and Diomande to the wings. You add a top fullback, and suddenly you're looking at a squad where you go, hang on a minute. So you rotate 3 or 4 players for a Champions League game or a League Cup game, and you go, I'm still feeling really confident. You get an injury or two, and you go, oh, I'm still really confident. Where right now, you know as well as I do, we get one injury in midfield or one injury in our attack, and we're so threadbare, it's unbelievable. So I love this link. I like Bruno Guimaraes. I think he's such a talented player. He really is. And in fact, when you look at how talented he is, I want to go to Data MB because they're probably the best at collating this information. You know, you look at the way he plays and the way he operates. He had a slightly better year last year, but he just progresses the ball well. He wins such a high percentage of his duels. Great at winning possession back. Very good at passing the ball through the lines. And it's one thing we've missed in recent weeks. And I think this has kind of gone under the radar since the West Ham game, is we have missed Lisandro Martinez, someone that can punch that ball into the midfield. Boom, 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 boom. We also don't have midfielders when Bruno's attacking that can pick the ball up and feed it through the next set of lines. And Bruno Guimaraes is better at doing that than Casemiro. The same as Tonali's better than Casemiro at that. Elliot Anderson is the lead in the Premier League, the best in the Premier League at doing that. And it's why these players are so key for us to sign. And this is why I also want fans to try and create a positive atmosphere. Because trust me, these young players are online. Bruno's online. Anderson's online. We need to create an atmosphere where we're welcoming to players. We don't need to be toxic. We don't need to be moaning every 5 minutes. We don't need to be horrible every 5 minutes. We also don't need to be defeated. You know what you don't want to do? I've seen United fans do this today. Every couple of days now, we get stories that he's agreed to go City, although all the top journalists say he hasn't. I see United fans then atting him and slagging him off. And I'm thinking, you do realise that might hurt our chances of getting one of these players. You clowns, right? I think you clowns, you know? It's like, that's not going to work. We don't want to be, you know, you get those weird beta males, and you saw them at school quite a lot, and you saw them as adults, where they like a girl, they like a woman, they ask the woman out, and she says no, and then instead of just taking it in a dignified way, they get really nasty, and you think, well, you're never going to convince her now, right? That's how we act as fans. Some of our fans act. You don't want to come to us, and we go out on the attack. Well, we don't even know if that story's true. Think about all the stories the media sold to us last year that made our fans panic. We were only going to buy youngsters. We only had £100 million to spend. If we were going to get a striker, he was only going to be a backup to Rasmus. The bomb squad are returning, as an example. We're not going to buy a new goalie, only a backup. All these things were said. They weren't true. And we lost our minds for months. We attacked players, and we didn't need to. And I do hope, if we make the Champions League, that this is a far more relaxed summer. You can put pressure on without losing your mind, and we need to do a lot more of that this year. Tried my best to get on board with Terry, but for fuck's sake, mate, the echo on the start again just makes me switch off, dickhead. Oh, that's nice, Don. Don, listen, my old mate. Have you had a bad day? Do you want to come sit down with Uncle Tel? We'll have a little chat. We'll have a little cuppa, Don. Are you all right? You okay, mate? Okay. Sounds like you've had a hard day. I would say more, but it's not my platform. Hope you're well, mate. Hope you are well. Broadcasters with the new format in mind can't wait for United's Champions League nights. Pure viewing figures equal dollars. I agree with you. This is from Daniel, one of our members, who says, if we don't get Tonali, I'd be very happy with Bruno Guimaraes. Tonali is my #1 transfer target this summer, closely joined by Anderson, but Bruno G would be a great player to get. Yeah, I like the Tonali deal. The Tonali deal is interesting because Arsenal are seen as a front runners in England by a number of sources. He really wants to go back to Italy, though. But I don't know if the Italians can get him. But I like Bruno G. Elliot Anderson's really high on my list. Elliot Anderson is right up there. I want to make sure you all understand this, okay? And I'll put my neck on the line for this because I don't hold back. Elliot Anderson is one of the best midfielders in Europe. Now, he's doing it at Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. He does it in an England kit. And I know he's got to prove it in the Champions League. I know he's got to prove it under the pressure of playing for a bigger club. But I think he will. I think you put him in a Man United shirt. I think you put him in a City shirt. And I hope he doesn't wear one. You are going to see an absolute tip-top football player. Tip-top on every level. It's the progressive passes. He can win the ball back like Casemiro does. He can win the duels like Casemiro does. But his progressive passes through the lines, they seem to go unnoticed of a lot of football fans. It's just incessant. He sits in the top 95 percentile of all European midfielders this year are progressing the ball through the lines. He's absolutely amazing. Sorry, people. I went to the gym today. I feel like I've trapped all this air inside my body and I can't get it out. I apologize massively. So, yeah, I would love him. I would absolutely love him. Really great shout. What a prat Don was. Yeah, listen, I can take it, man. This here from AIC, who says, do we know the budget for the summer transfer spend? No, and nobody will tell us, and they shouldn't tell us. And I saw Mark's list of 10 things that could go wrong, and me and Mark have hot takes tomorrow morning on the Football Terrace. I hope to see every single one of you there, 11 a.m. on that platform, my platform. But I'm going to be asking him about those 10 question points. It's not an argument. It's not going to be a fight. It's not going to be. I want to kind of get his view on them, what good looks like. I want to understand what Mark's good in that scenario looks like, and I'm going to give mine as well. But I don't want. One of the questions you'll see me repeat tomorrow or answers is I don't want to know the budget. And do you want to know why? And these are the things we've got to remember. We cannot forget the past. Let's find the date when he said this, right? So, Ed Woodward. When did he say we can do things in the market others cannot? Let's get the date. There we go. September 2014. Ed Woodward said Man United can do things in the transfer market other clubs can only dream of. That is what he said. That was following the summer of signing Angel Di Maria. That comment there probably cost Manchester United in transfer fees an additional 400 to 500 million. And in salary has probably cost us £1 billion of overspend. Because what it told the world is we have more money than sense and we can do whatever we want. And it was true back then compared to most other Premier League teams. But you never reveal your hand ever. Ever. You never do it. Rule 101 of business negotiations, you don't reveal your hand. In fact, and this is where Man United fans have got to play the game and help your club. When the media inevitably gets briefed by the club and a story comes out in April that says United only have £85 million to spend. Manchester United only have £110 million to spend this summer without sales. Don't do your nuts. Stay relaxed. Because we're not telling the truth. But it isn't a lie to be horrible to the fans. If we start telling the world we've got hundreds of millions to spend and we publicly back it, every player becomes more expensive. And we had some really hard negotiation battles last year because Brentford tried to do to us what every other club has done. We want 70 million. We want 75 million. We want 85. We want 95. We've found another club for him. Mbeumo, don't go. Mbeumo, don't go. Go to this club. Go to that club. And eventually we got the deal at a price that was fair. It was the original asking price, but we didn't yield when the deal kept on being changed. We fought hard. And a lot of United fans were angry about it, but I saw it the completely opposite way. What we would have done under Woodward, what we would have done up until a couple of years ago is gone, okay, I know we agreed 80, but we'll give you 85. And we want 95 now. Oh, can we do 90? Okay. We would have rolled over and let a grown man tickle our bellies. No, we shouldn't do it. So to your point, I understand that we want to know the budgets, but I reject that notion. I don't want to know what we can get an idea of the budgets by looking at the profitability. We can look at the revenues and the expected revenues, and you can kind of work it out. It's not too hard. You will also look at it when we're making a loss and got massive debt and go, well, we spent 250 million here and 250 million here and 280 million there. We're now making profits. We're back in the Champions League. We should be able to guesstimate what it is. But we start telling the world exactly what we can spend. In fact, I want us to tell the world. I want us to tell the world we've got £20 to spend. I want us to tell the world we've got no money. Because that way we might get a player that would normally cost us 80 million, we might get him for 70. A player that might cost us 30 million, we might get for 25. A player that might cost us 60 million, we might get for 50. And suddenly you've got another 30 million pound to play with. Work smarter, not harder. And for me, we absolutely must. It's not about backing Ineos. It's about your football club. You know as well as I do, they're not going anywhere. So we can talk about that as much as we want, but it isn't going to change. What we need is to create the best possible environment for us to improve. Because what's the alternative? And when we as fans keep doing this on certain subjects, I think we make it easier for our rival teams to get better prices out of us and make us waste more money. So when it comes out, we've only got 50 million, go, gee whiz, how are we going to work with that? Oh, darn it. Oh, we're in trouble now. Oh, please sell us somebody cheaper. Do us a favour. Let's play the game. Let's play the game. Still angry about it. We never should have gotten Mbeumo. Wilcock should have put his foot down and gotten a midfielder and a wing-back first. Then maybe go for Mbeumo if the budget was there. Look, you could be right. Pete, you could be right. Maybe we should have done that, but we are third in the league. And I don't think we're third by fluke. I don't think we're third just because other teams have fallen off. We had to win our games, and we're there. We could have done what you said. Listen, remember, there are certain fans that are angry with the way the club's being run, granted. But those were the same fans that were writing letters to the club to keep Ten Hag. That set us back 2 years, that decision. So I'm a bit more open-minded than other people. We could have walked away from Mbeumo, and we could have signed Baliba, and we could have signed a decent fullback, but we could be 8th right now in the league because we haven't scored enough goals. And then the same people, what people wouldn't be sitting again, but we did the right thing. They'd be saying we're 8th, ain't good enough. So from my point of view, with hindsight, because it's lucrative, looks like we made the right decisions this summer where we spent our money. Doesn't mean the squad's perfect. We don't need to invest more, but I do think we did the right thing, if I'm being honest with you. Losing Clintroll here says we weren't good, but at least back then the salary would attract top players. Right now we have become way worse as a club and don't offer the same types of salaries to attract either. We're cooked. Absolutely perfect that we're not offering those crazy salaries. Absolutely perfect. That's the reason we are here. What I see you doing there, losing, is you are complaining about us not doing the things that led to our demise. It's a bit like, sometimes in life, I'll give you the analogy. It's like your children, okay? What do my children want every day? I tell you something they want. McDonald's, sweets, and to sit on their iPads all night. If I let my kids do that, they would say I'm the kindest daddy in the world. Oh, my dad's so good. Every night I get a Big Mac. Every night I get a Happy Meal, pack of Haribo, and from 3:30 when I get home from school until 7:30 when I go to bed, I get 4 hours on my iPad. I've got the kindest daddy in the world. But I'm not being kind. What I am doing is I am being horrible to their future selves. What you need to do as a parent, now this works the same for business, this works the same for running a sports team, is you have to be kind to what you are going to become. You have to be kind to what your children are going to become. And that looks more like doing their homework, teaching them to read, and some broccoli is thrown in. Bit of veg, bit of fruit, healthy foods. Yes, in the short term, they may go, oh, my dad's so strict. My dad don't let me on my iPad for more than half an hour. My dad's so strict, he barely lets me eat junk food. But what I know is as they grow older and they're healthier, they're not lazy, they don't have health problems, I've taken care of that. So where you're saying that we're cooked because we won't spend the types of salary we used to, we were convincing players to come to Man United purely by offering them exorbitant amounts of money that were well above what they were worth. One, we run out of cash. Two, then the average players were then on ridiculous money in comparison. And we had this bloated, lazy, horrible, often narcissistic squad because we were not kind to our future selves. We just threw money at the problem and we had no strategy. And I have to say this to you, losing control, advocating for that behavior, the fact we're not doing that anymore makes me really, really happy. So happy. If we look to repeat anything Woodward did in the same way Woodward did it, I'm out. So, for instance, not signing Gallagher is the opposite to what a Woodward would have done. That, for me, is a positive. That, for me, I'm going to advocate more of that behaviour. Bring in players like Cunha and Mbumo in on listen, it's all astronomical money to people like you and I, but bringing them in on 150s, 160s a week with incentives to get more money if we qualify for the Champions League and win trophies, we have to follow suit. We cannot, we should not, absolutely shouldn't go back to doing what we did 2014, 2015, 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20. It was the road to ruin. Overspending, underselling, bloated squad on ridiculous wages, hemorrhaging money. And by the way, when people go, oh, look at that, we still owe £400 million on transfers. So much of that is because of that behaviour. So I'm really sorry to say this, my friend. You're so wrong. And I don't normally say that. I'm normally very open-minded to other people's opinions. But no. Give your kids broccoli, not Haribo. Be kind to their future selves. Let's have a little look here at your comments. Because of Mbumo and our summer signings, we're third in the league. This is absolutely it. And by the way, it doesn't mean you can't have an opinion. For instance, this summer, I think midfield should be the key area we try to fix. 2 to 3 signings. Winger, fullback. They'd be my 5 choices. But let's say we buy 2 midfielders, 2 wingers and a fullback. Oh, I think we need 1 more midfielder. But we get even better next year. I'll just hold my hands up and go, yep, I'm happy with what we did. Great. I'm not just going to keep banging on and on about it. Oh, no, I didn't get what I want, so I'm just going to hate on them forever. You can do that. I'm not going to put you down for it. I just don't behave that way in life. I can't do it. It's too energy sapping, man. Imagine my disappointment when seeing the United stand live only for it to be Terry. Oh, Carl, man. Carl Murray. I mean, listen, if I had a name like yours, boring, bland, I'd probably be upset with the world also. But it's all right, mate. You know? It's all right. Drop me a DM. We'll have a little cup of tea together. Have a little cuddle as well. That's what we'll do. We'll have a little cuddle as well. The problem is now at United, we've got diabetes daddy, the Glazers, and diabetes son. You need to unpack that for me. What do you mean? What do you mean? Because I would say it's the other way around now. I actually think it's better that we're being frugal. I really do. If we start next season with Shaw under Low, then nothing will have changed. Well, that's not true, is it? It's just not true. Because what if the whole midfield's been revamped? The left wing's looking amazing. Another striker's added. That doesn't mean nothing has changed. So I think from my point of view, from my point of view and perspective, I do want a new fullback. But this is the one thing I'm also going to ask Mark about tomorrow. And I want to ask you this question now. What is the perfect summer? And I heard one of the things Mark said, which was it was something along, we need all the right signings, which I agree. But what's the threshold percentage? So how many bad signings out of percentage-wise can we make for you to go, that's acceptable? We need all the right players sold. Well, if you think we're getting rid of all of our dead wood in one summer, you're mad. Because I think we could name 15 players that we want to leave. We're not getting rid of all 15 of them. Some are going to stay. So what's really important is you put a list together of all the players that you need sold in the next 2 to 3 years, but who would be accepting of staying now. Because this is what I think is going to happen. Now, I know Mark won't do this because Mark's too honest. But I think what a lot of people are going to do is be vague. If we don't sell all the players that I want rid of, I'm going to be mad. If we don't sign all the players I want, I'm going to be mad. If we ain't successful in the transfer window, I'm going to be mad. But then they'll fail to be specific about what that looks like. That way, I have the feeling they can moan regardless. I would love for people to be very specific in what they want. Just then, so if you get what you want, at least then maybe it will calm you down for a bit. But I don't think... But even when people say 1 CDM, 2 central midfielders, 1 left back, 1 centre back, 1 winger, 4 out. Who, though? Be specific. Be specific. Be specific. And you don't have to maybe name the players, but what ilk of player, what profile, what can they do? You know, I think people need to get specific with this rather than vague. I'd love to know. Because I'm intrigued to know your points as well, if that makes sense. I want to know what you think. Not just, I want 8 players. Well, great. Who, what, where, why? Do you know what's really interesting when you get specific? Even people that are on your side start to disagree. That's why a lot of people don't like doing it. Because they feel like they lose support. If they start saying, what do you mean you want those 4 players? They're rubbish. And then, you know, it's really intriguing. We actually need a striker, Thiago. Yeah, listen, I don't think there's any one solution, like sort of one-size-fits-all solution. 5, 6 players maximum will sign if we're in the Champions League. But we probably need more than that. We probably need more than that, if we're being absolutely honest, for the squad to be complete. So I'm in a position where if we bring in 5 or 6 players, and 4 of them are absolute solid hits, if we move on 7 or 8 players, promote a couple of youth players, I think by and large I'd be quite happy. Delo and Shaw, would I be happy for them to stay? Yes. But would I... I'll tell you as to why. As long as we sign a left back. I'm also not going to be suckered in by the headlines around the left back. Because I guarantee you, if we sign a left back, it will be... So, because this is where one to challenge Shaw. It won't be to challenge Shaw, it'll be to replace Shaw. But they won't want to put that pressure upon them. But it's like with Delo and Maz. I'd actually rather Maz play more regularly. I think Maz is the better player. So, but do I think we're going to sign 2 fullbacks? No. Not along with two or three midfielders and a winger and potentially a striker. I don't think we're going to sign that many. Now, what we might do is sign a couple of players that are cheap that we're not expecting, like a Mads, who was, 13 million. That is what would be lovely this summer, is to get a couple of players that are of the Mads level, who are very cheap, very affordable, and easy to bring in. But I'm happy with 1 fullback, but a starting level fullback. Starting level fullback. I really like Lewis Hall, you know. I think the problem is Newcastle got so many players I like. We're never going to get them all. But if you could add Lewis Hall at left back, Maz starting at right back with Delo as the cover, I'd be very comfortable with that. Luke Shaw can be the backup. I'd be very comfortable with that for another year. Very comfortable. Very, very comfortable. Bruno's a liability, low work rate. I can't read that. Whichever Bruno you're talking about, if you think they're low work rate, I'm done. I'm done listening to that one. Maguire stay, Bruno stay, Malacia, Sancho, Rashford. Diomande in. Well, that was one of the big, another talking point I wanted to go through today. So I saw this post on the United stand earlier. It says, if Man United were to sign one left winger this summer, who should be the number one target? And the players that were on that list, and we'll get a poll going now as well. The players that are on that list are Yan Diomande, Anthony Gordon, and Ndiaye. Which of the two? Who would you go for? Which of the three? I don't know why I said two. Would you go for? And why? I'd love to know. I'm just getting something up on my screen, so I apologize about going silent for a second. Who would you go for and why? And I'm just going to go straight to your comments first. I'm not even going to comment on it myself to begin with. I want to go to your comments. Sorry, bear with me a second. My computer's going a bit weird. Very sorry. Bear with me a second, my people. Cool. Sorry. Apologies. Apologies. My screen went all funny. Who would you go for? We've got a poll up. I'm going to vote on the poll. There it is, and then give you my name. Now, I'm typically speaking a Prem-proven guy. But on this particular case, if I can only pick one of those three, I'm going with Ndiaye. Second choice would be Anthony Gordon. Third choice, did I say Ndiaye? Yan Diomande is my number one choice. Let's start this again in case you're clipping this up, right? My number one choice would be Yan Diomande. Number two would be Anthony Gordon. Number three would be Ndiaye. And my reasons being, it's the percentiles. So I watch them all play, and I love watching them. Well, I love watching Ndiaye play. I love watching Yan Diomande. I really like how they play. Anthony Gordon, he always leaves me wanting a little bit more. I often feel let down with him in front of goal. But then you have to start looking at the facts and not just what your eye test sees. You've got to look at the facts. And when you look at Yan Diomande across Europe, one of the best creators, one of the best assisters, a large amount of goals for a winger. Of the three, is the best dribbler and the best carrier. But it's the carrying and the dribbling and the crossing that I'm then looking at. Because that's also where Anthony Gordon excels. A lot of accurate crosses, a lot of key passes. It's not quite Anthony Gordon's fault that the attackers at Newcastle haven't been finishing those chances. With Ndiaye, it's just, I think he looks really good, but he has large parts of games where he goes missing, and he's very ineffective. So when I look at all three of them, Yan Diomande is top of my list. He's the one issue I've got with Yan Diomande, though, is his age at 19. He's very, very young and raw, where the other two are 25 years of age and that little bit more experienced. The little bit more experienced. In an ideal world, I'd like Yan Diomande and one of the other two. But when I just look at the, again, Ndiaye, I love the way he dribbles. I love his skill set. I love how he looks. But don't be suckered in. And maybe at a bigger club, he does better. But my worry is this. All of them play for teams where there's a lot more space to play into than if you're at a Man United, if you're at a City, if you're at a Chelsea. And at Everton, no one's sitting in low blocks against them. And still, the consistency isn't quite there from Ndiaye. But he's the kind of player that could have a bad game, but he still passes the eye test. He's very aesthetically pleasing. Don't be suckered in by that. Anthony Gordon is better. Yan Diomande, for me, is ahead of both of them. But I'd love to get your opinions on this. I'd love to get your views on this in that comment section below. This is, hey, Terry, do you remember me, South African kid who called in about James signing when your channel was called something else? Ignore the haters. Daniel, I think I got a lot of callers back then. We were, in fairness, when we signed it, we were the Football Terrace back then. We'd just changed from the Devil's Terrace. We'd just changed from the Devil's Terrace to the Football Terrace. That was around that time, to be fair. Thank you very much for the super chat. I really appreciate it, Daniel. And yes, I remember. Emily here says, we need Mbeumo and Cunha style signings in midfield before we start getting kids in there. In the attack, I would love Yan Diomande to come in. I agree with you on the kids thing. I mean, what do you consider a kid to be? So what do you consider a kid signing to be? Because I think Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes are obviously on that level of you wouldn't consider them kids. But Elliot Anderson is 23 years of age, turns 24, I think, in next season. So again, I don't necessarily consider him to be a kid. Turning 24 next season, I look at that, 160 games in his career. He's playing for England. I think he would be a great age to sign right now. Wharton is young. I think he's 22. I don't know when he turns 23, though. That's really again, but I don't think he is a baby. He's just turned, if anything, he's just turned 22. So he'll be 23 next season as well. I do agree with you, though, by and large, Emily. I think that we need experience in those areas. I'm saying 23-ish, 24-ish to 27. That's got to be the age category for those midfield players if we can do it. Then, if you've got a midfield that's full of 23, 24, 25-year-olds and Bruno, then if you've got lots of attackers like Cunha and Mbumo that are of that age, you have a youngster like a Diomande in the team. There's such a wealth of experience for them to flourish in. Such a wealth of experience for them to do the business in. And how old's Dorgu? I don't actually know because I don't really check those things. He's 21, so he'll turn 22 next year. Again, I so want him back, man. I so want him back. Really, really, really need him back in the team. It's actually crazy. Since he and Lissandro Martinez have been out of the team, we haven't been as good. And that's where I will defend Michael Carrick 100% of the way. Because as Pep Guardiola will tell you, as Arteta will tell you, in this league, when you've got some injuries, it hurts your performance levels. Especially when you've got a squad as thin as Manchester United's. Especially when you've got a squad as thin as ours. Those types of players being missing is very, very bad for us indeed. Let's have a look here at some more of your comments. This super chat just come in here that says, Hall, Ryerson, Tonali, Stiller, Sanderberger as a backup, and Ndiaye in the low, Xerxes, Mount, Ugarte out is my dream summer transfer window. All the players you want out, I don't disagree with. As long as we sign a right back, I'm very, very happy with it. Very, very happy with it. If we sign another right back that can start, that's of a high level, I'd be very happy with it. I'm not a fan of Delo. Daniel here says, great show as ever, Terry. Always good to see you. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that massively, my friend. Thank you very, very much indeed. David says he prefers a left back this year. I hear that. I hear why you would say that. I do. You're a bad dad, Terry, for not buying that Stanley Cup. I got one. They weren't happy. My daughter especially, she wasn't happy when I pulled out my Stanley. She gave me the dirtiest look in the world. I ain't spending £50 on a cup for you. No disrespect, but that would be a madness. Be a true madness. It would. What do you guys make of the Paul Scholes situation? What do you make of it? What do you guys make of it? Paul Scholes spoke earlier today and said that it was in no way intended to be offensive towards Michael. Michael's one of the nicest people in football. He would be the last person I would want to offend. I messaged Michael anyway. I went straight to him and said, look, I had no intention of upsetting you. I don't think I needed to say that anyway, but he told me himself he wasn't upset by it. Some will say he's telling the truth. It's fair to say we've been crap for 4 games. I don't agree we were crap for 4 games. I think we were the better team against Everton. I think we were the better team against Crystal Palace, especially in the second half. I didn't like how we played against Newcastle. I thought the players got it completely wrong. The West Ham game, similar. It's funny, the 2 performances that I really thought were bad were the ones where we played twice a week, where the squad gets tested more. We ain't used to it. We have to rotate more, but you can't rotate because the squad ain't good enough. But equally, I think people have been too harsh. Those first 4 games were very, very good. The idea that has to be the level Otherwise, we're going to be very angry at a manager. It's a very dangerous precedent to set. Because I can assure you, if Carrick leaves in the summer and the new guy comes in, he will go through 3 or 4 game, 5 game, 6 game periods where Man United aren't very good either. I guarantee the people going in harsh on Carrick will not be as harsh on a manager they like. You will not see the consistency from it. And the reason why I bring this up is I remember Man United in our pomp going through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game periods where we weren't playing very well, but we were getting wins. It's very normal. We've got to drop this utopian vision of playing like we did against City and Arsenal and it being a weekly occurrence no matter what. You're going to have up and downs, especially with an average squad like we've got, especially with 2 or 3 players in that average squad out injured, some of our better players. That being said, Carrick certainly made mistakes in that time. I didn't like the fact we started with no striker against West Ham, called it out. I felt we did. I actually don't think we should have started Šeško against Newcastle. By the way, I think we should have a more fluid front three, and it would have helped us. But I think the tempo wasn't always there in the game. But actually, if you watch the match, you can see Carrick the whole time screaming for the players to move the ball faster. So it's a player issue, in my opinion. But there are definitely some criticism for Carrick. I didn't like some of the subs in those games, and I criticised it. And I think it's fine to say all 4 games are crap. I think it's absolutely fine for doing that. But the snarky comment about Michael has definitely got something special about him, that isn't needed. That for me was a little bit bitter and poisonous. Especially to someone that's meant to be your friend, or at least an ex-colleague that you have respect for. And maybe it wasn't aimed at Michael. Maybe it was aimed at the people that have been saying that Michael Carrick's really good. But even then, why have you got to say it? Now, some will think completely differently to me, and that's fine. I'm not going to debate it with you. I'm not going to argue it with you. I'll accept your opinion. But I think right now, Man United have a lot of problems at the club still. We've had a horrible couple of years. There's still lots of fires going on. And I don't see the reason as to why we continue to throw petrol over them. As ex-players, pundits, fans. I'm just thinking about what my nan used to say to me as a kid. And I feel like we're in a little bit of a time like this. Sometimes, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And the fact he's deleted it, and then he's contacted Michael, tells you he felt a certain way. He knew he shouldn't have done it. So as much as some will say he shouldn't have deleted it, I agree with him 100%. The fact that he has and he's gone to Michael himself tells you that he felt uncomfortable about what he did. So the big question is, why did you do it? Some think it's because he's trying to stay relevant. Some think it's for money. I think that might play a part. Do I think he's got a personal issue with Carrick? No. But I didn't like it. There was something about it felt off. It was almost like gloating that we'd lost. If it was more anger, I actually would have understood it. But it almost felt like he was happy Man United lost, because it proves Carrick isn't good enough. And I could never understand that train of thought. But I'd love to get your views on this. I'm going to have a few reads here. Terry, do you think the reduction in training has had any effects on the intensity? No, absolutely none. Until I see professionals come out and say that in fact impacts the games, I'm not going to speculate on it. And the reason why I say that is because this is where you know I think it's a load of nonsense. So we had great intense training under Amorim, yes? Why were so many games lacking intensity under Amorim? Doesn't make any sense. If the lack of speed in our play is because Carrick's removed the volume of intense training, why were we winning 1 game a month? And why was there such a lack of intensity in so many games under Ruben Amorim? And by the way, if you think about it from how many passes we allow between each defensive action, all of that's got better under Michael Carrick. On average, we've reduced the shots per game inside our own box from around 11 to 12 per game down to an average of 5. XG has been lower. Chances created in general has been higher. Goals higher. Points higher. Goals conceded lower. Clean sheets lower. So nearly every single metric has improved. Now, do I think Michael Carrick is perfect? Of course not. Do I think he should be given the job full time? No. I think there are better options that we have to look at right now. Should he be ruled out completely? Also, no. It depends who rejects us. Depends who wants to come to Man United right now. Remember, the way we behave as fans might put some managers off. We never think about it from that perspective, do we? But this idea that the training has ruined the intensity is a lie. Why is it a lie? Or a nonsense? Because we had a lack of intensity in so many games under Amorim, it was training with more intensity. What it tells me more is it's more of a look at the players. It's funny how the first 3 or 4 games, this is me, Occam's razor. Sometimes the most obvious, the most simple and obvious outcome is probably the real reason. And a lot of the time it goes back to the players, but we ignore players when we don't like a manager. We blame players when we love a manager. But I think we need to look closer at them. These players, when we were not expected to make top 4, new manager, great intensity, running hard, handling the pressure. Suddenly, we're 4th, we're 3rd. Can we maintain it? Can we go to the next level? Can we keep winning? Suddenly there's been a bit of a lack of intensity. I think some of these players are a little bit scared. I think some of these players are a little bit worried. I think some of these players can get a little bit complacent. I think it's a combination. These things seem more obvious to me. Because as Mark and I discussed before, a lot of these players have damaged a lot of managers in the past. And as bad as I thought Amorim did as a job, I still criticise the players regularly. I haven't changed my tune. I still think we have an average to good squad at best. So therefore, do I expect any manager? I wouldn't expect Fergie and Pep to get 8 out of 8 top-class performances from this squad. I wouldn't expect 6 out of 8. I might expect 5 out of 8 from them too, because of who they are. So I expect Carrick to get performances to the City and Arsenal and Spurs and Fulham level 70, 80% of the time. With this squad, no, I don't. Pep Guardiola had to spend £600 million on his squad to go from title winning to falling off down to 3rd to get back into a title race. The same fans I see that said Amorim needs a transfer window, Amorim needs a pre-season, Amorim didn't get bought enough for him, Amorim didn't get enough of the dead wood sold, are the same people not applying any of that logic to Michael Carrick. Go figure. Michael Carrick deserves. I've given him lots of criticism. Go watch all my Man United match reactions on the Football Terrace when we've dropped points or not been great. I've criticised many a thing he's done. Many a thing he's done. Even in the Fulham game, I criticised him when we won because I felt we went too defensive too early. I've criticised him. But if you're not applying the same... If you go back and listen to anybody's match reaction when Amorim was losing, and then you look at the ones where Carrick's losing, if you don't see them applying the same logic on squad and pre-seasons and money and the owners, they're charlatans. Charlatans is what they are. I think there was an element of heat of the moment with the Scholes comment and probably a good amount of frustration. Dunking on a mate in public was crossing the line, though. I completely agree. I completely agree. Me and Beth both work at the United Stand. I don't know Beth half as well as Scholes and Carrick know each other. But if Beth did or said something that I thought was wrong or was bad, and I felt I wouldn't do it. I don't even do it to people really on other channels, but I certainly wouldn't do it to someone who's a colleague, someone who I consider a friend. I feel, even if I'm right, is it correct to do it? Personally, I don't think so. Each to their own, though, on that one. Each to their own. Look, I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. It means a great deal. Sorry about the echo at the beginning. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. United Stand back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Then Mark and I will be live on the Football Terrace for Hot Takes, where we're going to go into this in a bit more detail, because I think me and Mark see things differently. But as ever, like, when we discuss these things, there'll be a lot of overlap where we, excuse the pun, where we will agree on things. With the Scholes comment, we're going to touch on what a good summer for Man United looks like. Plus, we'll be talking about some rival teams as well. Until next time, everybody, take care, goodbye, God bless, and